Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show. Hello, welcome in. First intermission, Avs Blues. This is the Guerilla Sports Off-Ice Intermission Report. Jesse Montano, Meghan, Angley. We got Thomas in here tonight behind the glass. Meghan, I got to say, I was thinking about this on the way down to the studio today. It seems like every time you and I are in here, we're having a conversation about they need to win this game. Oh, they got to pick up the points. The roller coaster just kind of continues on this season of the Avs needing to pick up points with every passing game. It becomes more and more important. We're down to 24 games to go. Not a perfect first period, but I liked what I saw. Avs get one through, some traffic in front. Your overall thoughts in the first 20 minutes there?
I like the energy. I didn't think it was a terrible first period from the Avs yesterday, but that did feel like the period to improve upon. And being on the second leg of a back-to-back, I really like the energy, especially by comparison in this first period. Off the jump, obviously, Parker Kelly drops the gloves, but we were kind of talking about it. It does seem tactful on behalf of Kelly, and I think the rest of the team matched him, though, and it was a pretty evenly matched first period, so there's still a lot of work to be done here, but overall, I'm really happy with it.
Yeah, look, we keep talking about the Avs needing to come out and have these games and have these points. And for the most part, I think this season they have responded. But you do find yourself again, Meghan, in a situation where you really do need the points here tonight against a division rival, a team that's a little bit further out in the playoff picture, not really pushing you for that wild card spot. But after a disappointing result last night, again, you and I talked last night on the post game. I didn't hate the process last night. In fact, I'd even go as far to say I liked what they did for large portions of last night's game in Nashville, but they don't get the result, and that's what they need right now. But I like the fact that they came out, good effort. They got in control of this game. They didn't back down. You know, they engaged physically. Liked a lot of what I saw, but now it's about building on what we saw there in the first period. You and I also talked last night about needing to see more depth contributions, a little bit more of a balanced attack offensively. This is a team that, look, they only scored one goal last night. You want to get the offense going to a higher rate, and it seems like you got 1 through 4, maybe a little bit more engaged tonight than we saw for stretches last night.
Well, certainly in matching physicality, which St. Louis is coming with a heavy hitting identity tonight throughout this season. Avs know this, and so they're matching it with physicality of their own, but in a way that makes sense to them too. So they still need to be disciplined. And you look at who has registered a shot on net coming out of one period, and Devon Toews, Parker Kelly, Miles Wood, Nathan MacKinnon, Casey Middlestat, Arturi Lehkonen, and Sam Malinski. That's an interesting bunch of players. There's a few additional players too with some attempts blocked. Throughout the course of this game, you can expect that to be even more distributed, but you see some names on there that we specifically called out last night, needing to see more. And it's important to see them putting pucks on that too. Malinski carrying on from a good game last night, clearly unafraid to get involved. There appears to be a confidence in his game, and I love how engaged he's been now through 4 periods. But similarly, Miles Wood, Casey Middlestat, those are players that also need to make themselves noticeable today.
Yeah. The other thing that we talked about then, wanting to see them address last night, was just the overall defensive game and just cleaning things up. No high danger chances allowed against. There was one turnover later in the period that led to a little bit of a kind of tic-tac play for St. Louis, and they were able to get a shot on from a little bit of distance out. But really what I think was the most encouraging part of this period for me, Meghan, was the Avs play without the puck. Seemed a lot more structured tonight. The couple times Mackenzie Blackwood was really called upon, he came up with the save, but I just feel like more responsible in their own end so far last night through the first 20 minutes than what we saw last night.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, they limited chances in the shots battle last night. So tonight they need to continue in that. But I think limiting the high danger opportunities is incredibly important for the Avs. And it starts with a strong possession game, because there were a couple of penalties of 4v4 opportunity, like the 5v5 hockey in terms of possession numbers comes at an even 50-50 split after one period. And in all situations, it doesn't necessarily favor the Avs, but to the eye test, that was a period that seemed controlled by the Avs in the offensive zone when you look at the shots and the high danger opportunities. To me, that is still pointing to a good defensive structure in their own end by limiting the time and the quality of the time spent there by St. Louis. And that's important because they're both tired. So in my eyes, this is kind of an evenly matched game. And important division points on the line, with Dallas and Minnesota winning last night, it just made today's game that much more important for the Avs.
I mean, the other teams aren't going to lose, so you've got to continue to pick up points. Minnesota's down by 2 goals late in that third period yesterday. They end up finding a way to dig it out, come back, beat Detroit in overtime. Yeah, so if other teams aren't going to, if you're not going to get any help from other teams, you got to continue to collect your points. Let's talk about the goal. Devon Taves from Cale Makar. I thought those were 2 players yesterday on the back end that really stood out in a positive way. They had a lot of really positive impact on the game. They were shooting, they were generating chances. Not all of them were necessarily getting through to the net, but they were generating a lot of shots at the net. And they get rewarded on this one in maybe an unlikely way, a way that I was joking to you, like that'll be a funny one to look back on at the end of the season. Devon Taves redirecting a Cale Makar shot. Taves finds himself in a shooting lane there. Credit to him, he's able to get a stick on it.
I'm looking at it back now live, and I see that it starts with McKinnon stealing the puck at center ice. And obviously the play in between the blue lines just as important, but it leads to an opportunity that, to your earlier point, I think they deserve to be rewarded for last night. It was clear to me that Taves, Makar, and McKinnon were players who just competed on such an important stage in the Four Nations tournament. That intensity was there in their game, and it just didn't necessarily get rewarded yesterday. So that's what I like to see from this. It's just a high quality shot from Cale Makar at the blue line, and people have to put themselves in the right place. Devon Taves puts himself in the right place in that shot lane to the net and is able to deflect it. So Cale Makar scores his 400th point in career history, among the fastest defenseman to do it, joined by some pretty good company. I believe it was Paul Coffey and Bobby Orr.
Yep, you are correct. Let's talk about Cale, because I wanted to talk about the players that came back from the Four Nations tournament. Nathan MacKinnon, 8 shots yesterday. 1 shot so far today, or 2?
1.
1 shot so far today.
Scrub.
I did wonder, you and I talked about it in regards to the how about this from Jacob McDonald? Sorry, folks. Jacob McDonald scores again, and he just continues to climb. 21 goals, leads the AHL in scoring by defensemen. 21 goals for Jacob McDonald. The next closest is 13. That's per the Avs. Fantastic head of PR, Brendan McNicholas. But I was wondering if the emphasis from Canada around, hey, someone needs to shoot, right? We heard Sidney Crosby talk about it before the tournament started. There's the clip that's gone around now that's kind of been viral in overtime of John Cooper yelling at the guys on the bench saying, hey, somebody be selfish and shoot the puck into the back of the net. I wondered if we were going to see any of that mentality carry, back over in Nathan MacKinnon, Cale Makar of shoot it. Shoot the puck. We knew Jared Bednar was debriefing with the guys as they came back. I do wonder if there was any extra emphasis on, your job when you were out with Team Canada was to put the puck on net. We want you to do that same thing here. Let's be less selective with the shots and let's put just some more pucks to the net. Do you think that we're seeing any of that, or am I looking a little bit too far into the fact that it feels like Cale is putting the puck towards the net a lot? And again, through 4 periods, 9 shots for Nathan MacKinnon.
Well, it's not just Cale. I think Sam Malinsky also putting the puck on net is a conversation around the back end.
Oh, we're going to talk about him in a second.
To try for second and third attempts, sometimes the offense isn't going to come pretty. And I think that the Avs are recognizing that in order to score more throughout the rest of this lineup, that's what they have to be doing. They want pretty goals from the top of the lineup. You can expect it. The skill is there to match. But when the back end is going to contribute to how they create offense, that's one of the best ways that they can help. I think it's been lacking a little bit this year. not from Taves and Makar specifically. They've been doing the heavy lifting, but usually the Avs defensemen are a part of how this team creates offense more. They're a part of that conversation more. And so Malinsky getting involved in the mix, I think, is part of it. And then looking at McKinnon on the flip side of it, this is a player that was averaging below 5 shots per game when he typically is around that number. He comes back in his first game and has 8 in a game where lanes were managed pretty well. And so it was difficult to get pucks on net. That absolutely reinforces a shooting mentality that's being encouraged among McKinnon, among the star players, but I think this whole team right now, and they have to lead by example. So it's important for McKinnon to lead the charge in that sense.
Yeah, and the other thing that I really like about this goal here tonight, it's something that we talk about when JJ's here. He harps on it big time. Bodies to the net and getting pucks through traffic. When you're playing against, a goaltender like what we saw them come up against last year in the playoffs in Connor Hellebuck, the Avs were able to generate as much offense as they were because they were going to the net. They were finding rebounds. They were making it hard for Hellebuck to see the puck. And not to keep referencing Four Nations, but, those goals that we see that beat him in the gold medal game for Team Canada. One of them is a Nathan McKinnon shot through bodies, through traffic. The other ones both come from in tight. I pulled up a still of right as that puck is getting by Jordan Binnington. You got Devon Taves in a lane. You got Arturi Lehkonen battling with a Blues defenseman in a lane. Another player who's checking Taves in the lane. And then you got Marty Netchis with another Blues defender standing right in the paint. Just havoc going to the net. Jordan Binnington, he's so hit or miss. But when he's on, as we just saw last week, he can make some big saves. You want to get in front of him. You want to make it difficult for him to see. If you can't see the puck, he's not going to make the stop. Let's talk about Sam Malinsky. You and I talked about the fact that we thought he really needed that break. He gets the goal last night, the only goal for the Avs last night. You and I mentioned in the post game, I thought he looked good, looked energized. I think he's carried it over again today.
I agree. I know we talked about it off air, so I feel like I'm repeating myself here, but it is obvious there's a difference in his game. There's a confidence, and there's just no reservation to just shoot the puck. And I think before, and it's not limited to just him, you want to be in search of the perfect play, especially out of fear of making mistakes. Your first full season in the NHL, you don't want to be the reason that those get made and lead to a turnover the other way. But I think he seems to have abandoned some of that fear or reservation that was limiting his game, because this is a strength. It was a strength in college. It was a strength with the Eagles. And we even saw it translate at the NHL level last year. He just needed to return to what he does best. And that's what I'm seeing out of him.
Yeah. And he's trusting his instincts and making the right play, making smart reads. I felt like there was so much of what we saw right before the break where he wasn't trusting his own abilities, and he wasn't trusting that he was going to make the right play. And I mean, we talk about it ad nauseum. When you're second guessing, thinking twice, and making I don't know the right way to say it, because I usually say playing not to lose, playing not to make a mistake. That's usually when you make more mistakes.
Yes.
And I think maybe that's a little bit of what you're talking about there of, hey, he's just, I don't know if it was him being able to get away, clear his head, rest up. I don't know what it was, but he looks like he's got renewed jump in his game. And it looks like he's trusting the fact that, yeah, I'm a good player and I'm going to make the right play. And if I don't, I'll make up for it. And I felt like he wasn't playing with that type of freedom and confidence going into that Four Nations break.
I agree. And he's talked about, too, you've mentioned this before, that the transition to your first full year in the NHL, even coming from the American League, is going to be tough on the body. And he's acknowledged as much. And so I think a week and a half break is so welcome for a player who's making that transition to the first full year in the NHL. It is a big difference on the body. So I think that was a fair call out from you earlier in the year. And I think we're seeing some of the returns on getting a break in the middle of the season. You and I were just talking about it while we were watching that first period. It's we maybe undersell what a difficult jump that can be going from really any league to the NHL. The schedules just aren't as rigorous. The amount of practice days you have aren't as much. The amount of days you're in the gym aren't as much. The amount of film that you're doing. I mean, this really is, there's no practice tomorrow. So you and I talk about like, off day. No, these guys are there. They're in the gym. They're doing film. They're working
individual sessions with Jared Bednar, special teams coaches, defensive coaches, all that stuff. This is such a mental and physical grind to be doing it for the first time. Yeah, I'm not at all surprised that Sam Malinski looks better after a week and a half off.
I giggled because Jared Bednar did his big projects over the break, and they go on this road trip and they waited for the Four Nations guys to return. So tomorrow actually feels like the day that he does a lot of presentation on some of what he dug into over this break. So I don't doubt that they're not really getting an off day in any sense tomorrow.
Well, and probably not only that, but probably combining it with some of the stuff that he got from the guys who were at Four Nations that came back, who just spent 2 weeks playing alongside Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid and playing under John Cooper.
They'll be forced to share with the class what did you learn at Four Nations break.
You come up here now. You guys have to stand up here, do your portion of the presentation.
My name is Kale, and I learned a lot at Four Nations.
Yeah, and here's what I learned from John Cooper. So I just think that it's showing now why it was so needed for a guy like Sam Malinski,
who
played college, played last year in the American League, and is now in his first full year of pro. If he can continue around this level from here to the end of the season, well, then maybe that issue that we've talked about on the back end isn't quite as glaring in the bottom pairing, but he's got to keep it going. Let's start with the rest of this game, huh? Let's see if we can keep it going for the rest of this game here.
Yep.
Avs up 1-0 over the St. Louis Blues. We are getting ready to drop the puck on the second period. Myself and Megan will be back right here, second intermission. She's Meghan Angley. I'm Jesse Montano. Thomas behind the glass. We will see you guys in the second intermission. Talk to you then.